Dr. Paul Mulindwa, Civicus Campaigns Lead for Africa, joins us now virtually to have a discussion about this. Dr. Mulindwa, good morning, and thanks so much for speaking with us here on Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and thank you for having me here.
Let's start with the milestones. 20 years on. What are the milestones that the AU will be celebrating in its 20th anniversary?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sakina. On 9th September 1999, the then Organization of African Unity signed the Sirte Declaration, which established the Union. So this declaration called for the creation of organization that would accelerate integration, that would look at the issues of development, socio-economic development, address the political issues, not forgetting the decolonization and the imperialism that was going away around that time. So 9th September is therefore a celebrated day and a big day in the lives of the African Union. And subsequently, we've seen more declarations, more instruments. Lome Summit in 2000, which was adopted, which adopted the Union's Constitutive Act, the Lusaka Summit that of 2001 that also drew the roadmap for the implementation of the AU instruments after all these declarations. In 2 decades since it was officially and founded, the organization has accomplished much, especially when it comes to amplifying the Africa's voices on the globe. I need to quote the Thabo Mbeki as the first chairperson of the AU then. Time has come that Africa must take her rightful place in the global affairs. If we look at before the AU, if we look at for instance, at the UN Council, the Security Council, Africa was not present as we see it now. So with the organization, with the mobilization of the African Union, we see a concerted voice, we see a represented, although there is still much needed in that space. The AU has helped African countries to become one, active and assertive in decision-making at the global space. You look at the World Trade Organization, you look at the declarations at UN, you look at the multilateral international trade agreements. Africa is one. Most recently, the African Union has received praise for its role in coordinating the continental pandemic response. And we could see the lobby, the voices in vaccines, access to vaccines, and also the containing of the pandemic on the continent. But also to note is around the socio-economic aspect of the African Union, which is effected in the free trade area. That has been the agreement that was signed in 2021 and is rolling out. We can say it is picking up the pace and it is helping the Africans to have a one market, a one-stop border where all Africans can sell, can trade, can move goods and services in the continent, which was one of the main pillars or the objectives of the founders of the African Union. Also, African Union has managed to deepen the peace and security cooperation, first within the United Nations, United Nations circles, but also at the African level, at the continental level. So we've seen Africa also participating in the peacekeeping missions, which was something missing before the African Union came together. We've seen African Union alongside UN deploying peacekeeping forces in Mali, Democratic Republic of the Congo, currently on its own deploying peacekeepers in Somalia. So this is a good gesture that the achievements that the objectives of the founders of the Sirte Declaration is taking place. More, maybe lastly, is on governance. Looking at the governance aspect, although there are some critics and reservations, but perhaps one needs to congratulate the African Union on, for instance, suspending the African countries that assume powers by illegal means. We've seen African Union suspending the membership of Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Sudan, after military coups, rebuking the power grab of the Guinean President Alpha Conde when he stood for the third term in the controversial constitutional changes. We also recognize the authority of the Union to intervene in war crimes and genocide and against crimes against humanity. But we need to interrogate more on why some countries are rebuked and others are not rebuked. Thank you.
And as I listen to you, Professor Mulindwa, I can't help but wonder, who exactly is benefiting from all the things that you've mentioned? Because you look at Africa, this mineral-rich continent, and yet we are still mired in poverty for the most part. The majority of Africans do not live in the Africa that you have now spoken about in terms of the gains of the AU. So apart from the political elite and others who may find themselves at the receiving end of the wealth of their various nation states, what has become of that vision? How well have these nations actually done in terms of achieving an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa, as it says, driven by its citizens? If you look at Africa that ordinary Africans live in, how far have we come as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, thank you, Sakina. You are very right and spot on. In terms of legal frameworks, yes, Africa, the continent, is not lacking legal regimes, instruments to steer the continent, the common person, me and you living in the peripherals of this continent. But I think, and perhaps many people will agree with me, the implementation coming together in a real sense of coming together as the continent, but also a consultative, a drop-down approach. You talk of natural resources. Yes, Africa really is endowed with a lot of resources, but then we need to recall the discourse of resource scarce. And this is what we see on the continent. The more resources we have, the more, the deeper the poverty, the more people become also poor, simply because at some point, when we talk of integration, which was also one of the pillars or the founding objectives of the AU, the integration of Africa becomes elusive, becomes something that we put aside. So we can integrate, we can talk about Africa One when we engage with security issues, when we engage with UN, but when we talk of socio-economic aspects, we need to involve a common person. We need to involve a citizen of country X in Central Africa, in Gabon, so that they feel the Africa we are talking about. Otherwise, it remains the Constitutive Act, the African Union Charter, all these good declarations remain in book to benefit a few Africans that are privy to some resources, to some positions, and to some agendas. So for me, the core issue is, how do we take this Sirte Declaration from Libya to someone in Eastern Cape? How do we take this declaration through our governments? We need to remember that we cannot see and touch African Union. We just see African Union within our countries, within the member states. If South Africa is a member state of the African Union, if Burundi, if DRC is a member state of African Union, what are they doing? So whatever they are doing should translate to the Africa we want, should translate to the 1999 objectives of the founding fathers of the AU.
If I may interject there, please, Prof. If I may, because we're just running out of time. But I want to that point to ask you about a current situation in South Africa that is literally imploding. And that's the situation regarding foreign nationals in South Africa, most of whom are economic migrants. And the question has been asked, where is the intervention of the African Union on African leaders who cause situations in their own countries that cause citizens to flee? Security and stability within those countries, many a country on the African continent has been elusive. So where is the African Union in ensuring that these sovereign states are effectively run and that there is a peer oversight by other nation states on the continent?
Yes, thank you. I think that's where one critic comes in terms of the ability, the audacity to rebuke some of these countries. And this comes in the angle of integration. Have we achieved the African integration? I think no. The issue of migration comes in with the issue of integration. If we are a united Africa, if we are a one Africa, then there will be no this this is a Zimbabwean coming to South Africa, this is a Mozambican coming to South Africa, but we would be looking at Africa as one. So again, it starts with our governments. Again, it starts with our regional mechanism to ensure that some of these socio-economic barriers, the political barriers, the boundaries, which we have to agree that were left by colonialists, must go away. But then AU needs to step up. It needs to come up and steer this with its good programs of boundaries and delineations, so that we see an achieved African integration. And we don't only look at the integration itself, we also need to look at the governance issues within the countries. What has African Union, what has been the response of the African Union when it comes to issues of human rights, when it comes to issues of governance? At Civicus, with our monitor, a tool that measures the stability and the enabling conditions of civil society and civic space, will tell you and indicate that over 35 countries in Africa are under repressed and obstructed spaces, with around 5 countries with closed civic space. What does this tell? And where is the voice of African Union when it comes to this? So unless African Union presides over its member states, intervenes, we also have to recognize that there is this clause of interference in the governments or independent states. But I think this is where the voice of the African Union is needed, so that we can solve the issues, socio-economic issues, like the migrations, like the foreigners in one country. We need to take example, for instance, at Kenya, Rwanda and Ghana, where they have opened their borders. Everyone with an African passport can come in. What is waiting for a country like South Africa to do that? What is waiting for a country like Libya to do that? So that we can realize a one Africa, integrated Africa for everyone.
Well, Dr. Mulindwa, thanks so much for your time this morning. And of course, I'm sure there will be much more conversation around this particular issue. Dr. Paul Mulindwa is Civicus Campaigns Lead for Africa, giving us a bit of a review on the African Union since its formation in 2002, as the organization celebrates its 20th anniversary in Durban today.